Hi, I'm Anastasia Hawkins, 34, and everything I thought I knew about my life unraveled at exactly 11:30 a.m. when the doorbell rang. Two police officers stood on my porch. A tall man with a mustache that made him look like he stepped out of a detective novel, and a younger woman with her hair pulled back so tightly I wondered if it hurt. I opened the door in leggings and a hoodie, one slipper missing, cradling my second cup of coffee like a lifeline. The male officer spoke first, Mrs. Anastasia Hawkins. I nodded slowly, heart beginning to hiccup. Yes, I'm Officer Dominic Scott. This is Officer Paula Haynes. We need to speak with you. It's regarding your husband, Marcus. Right then, I assumed naively that something had happened to him. A car accident. A fall at work. Something dramatic but fixable. I stepped aside to let them in, heartbeat tripling. We sat in the living room. I offered coffee. They declined. They always decline and shows right before delivering soul-crushing news. He's fine, Officer Haynes said quickly, like she'd seen the panic bubble up in my throat. No one's been hurt. But there is. A situation. I laughed nervously. Oh, okay. Well, Marcus just left for work this morning. Is he in trouble or something? They exchanged a glance. A quiet, practiced look that told me they'd had this conversation before. We received a missing person report, said Officer Scott, flipping open a small notepad. Filed by Cecilia Hawkins. Your husband's mother. Missing. I blinked. No, there's a mistake. He left at 7:30. He kissed me goodbye like always, said he had meetings all morning. Officer Haynes cleared her throat. According to his mother, she hasn't heard from Marcus in 4 days. She called his office yesterday and was told he hadn't been to work all week. That can't be right. My voice was small now. Marcus works at Meir and Associates. He's been on some big project, working long hours. We contacted Meir and Associates directly, Scott said gently. They confirmed Marcus hasn't been in since last Thursday. I stood up, phone already in hand. That's impossible. He comes home every night. We had lasagna last night. He told me about a client meeting that went long. My thumb hovered over his contact. Officer Haynes leaned forward. Mrs. Hawkins, please try calling him. Let's see what happens. I hit dial. The phone rang once, then straight to voicemail. My stomach dropped. There must be some mistake, I whispered, though no one asked me a question. He's been going to work every day. He puts on his suit, drinks his awful protein shake, and leaves at the same time. Every day. What time did he come home yesterday? Scott asked. 6:15. I remember because the lasagna was still hot, and I made a joke about how for once he didn't miss dinner. Haynes scribbled something in her notes. Have you spoken to Cecilia recently? She asked. Sunday, I said, grasping for solid ground. We were supposed to have dinner at her house, but Marcus said she canceled. Said she wasn't feeling well. Haynes looked up. Cecilia says that dinner was never scheduled. That's when I started to feel like the floor might actually shift under me. I showed them the bedroom. Marcus' things were all there. His toothbrush. His cologne. The t-shirt he always slept in tossed on the chair. When Haynes asked about his passport, I pulled out the desk drawer where we kept important documents. It was gone. So was his birth certificate. I froze, still holding the file folder. They were right here. I saw them last week when I paid the credit card bill. Scott stepped aside to answer a crackling call on his radio. A moment later, he returned. One of our patrol officers spoke to your neighbor, Christian Rogers. He says he saw Marcus last Thursday afternoon, around 1 p.m., loading bags into his car. What? That's not possible. He was at work. He's certain it was your husband, Scott said. We showed him a photo. I called Meir and Associates, demanding to speak to Kimberly, Marcus' assistant. She sounded surprised. Marcus hasn't been in, she said slowly. He requested personal leave last Wednesday for a family emergency. My voice cracked when I repeated that to the officers. Scott's tone softened as he asked if they could access our financial records. I was already opening our banking app. The balance on our joint account, $843. Last week, it had been over $32,000. Or savings. For a house. For our future. A single transaction from Thursday stared back at me. $31,500 transferred to an unknown account. There must be a mistake. I murmured. The credit card statements showed purchases from a luggage store, Men's Warehouse, and a ride share to SeaTac Airport. Haynes asked if Marcus had close friends or family out of state. His college roommate moved to Costa Rica last year, I said faintly. They went surfing together last Christmas. Haynes raised an eyebrow. We'll need his name and contact information. After they left, I called Kimberly back, desperate for anything to make this make sense. That's when she told me, Anastasia, Marcus was laid off 3 months ago. Everyone knew. We thought you did too. My entire body went cold. 3 months. 3 whole months of pretending. Of leaving every morning in a suit. Of dinners and fake client meetings and bedtime stories about a job that no longer existed. That night, I tore our apartment apart looking for answers. And that's when I found it hidden inside an old suitcase wedged behind the water heater, a prepaid burner phone. Password protected. Silent, waiting. It took 3 hours and a tech-savvy teenager from Maria's old tutoring group to crack it. The most recent message was from an unknown number, flight confirmed. Meet you there tomorrow. I sat on the kitchen floor for a long time, holding that phone like it might start screaming. And that's how I found out my husband didn't just vanish. He ran. And he wasn't alone. By the time Officer Haynes called me 2 days later, I'd cycled through every stage of grief except acceptance. That one was still pending. She didn't waste time. Double quotes Mrs. Hawkins, she said, her voice neutral in that trained cop way. We've confirmed that Marcus boarded a flight to San Jose, Costa Rica. On Friday morning, I didn't say anything. He wasn't traveling alone, she added. Still, I said nothing. My throat had shrunk to the size of a keyhole. We're working on identifying his companion. Passenger manifests show the name Madison Jimenez. Does that name mean anything to you? No, I whispered. It came out like a draft through a broken window. No, it doesn't. But that name would haunt me. That night, I stared at my ceiling for hours. It didn't feel like insomnia. It felt like betrayal had crawled under my skin and taken root. I called Marcus maybe 50 times, all to voicemail. My messages started sweet and confused. Please call me, I'm scared. Then angry. What the hell, Marcus? What the actual hell? By voicemail number 28, I was screaming. He never responded. Instead, his mother called me. As if this entire saga needed a comedic relief character with tragic timing. I let her go to voicemail the first few times. But on call 5, I answered. If I didn't, I was afraid I'd start breaking things I couldn't afford to replace. Anastasia. Cecilia said, all breathy and unsure. Did the police find Marcus? Oh, they found him, I said. He's in Costa Rica. With someone named Madison. Does that ring a bell? Silence. Cecilia. I prodded. I didn't know he actually left the country, she stammered. He called me last week, but he said he was just thinking things through. That he needed space. My fingers curled around the phone. You filed a missing persons report, I said, each word sharp enough to draw blood. You let 2 police officers come to my home. You watched me unravel. And you knew. He made me promise, she said, her voice cracking. He said things were complicated. That you were difficult lately. Difficult? I repeated, my voice now full of disbelief and enough rage to power a mid-sized SUV. I was difficult. You mean working overtime to help us save for the house he pretended to want? Or maybe you mean inconveniently trusting. I didn't know about the money, she whispered. Right, I snapped. You didn't know he drained our entire savings account. Used it to run away with another woman. While I was making lasagna and listening to fake stories about his fake job, she burst into tears. I hung up. I needed facts, not feelings. So, I did what any wronged woman with Wi-Fi and rage does. I investigated. The next day, I found a storage insurance receipt tucked into the glove box of Marcus Caro. Yes, he left the car because apparently Costa Rica didn't need sedans. The facility was in this grim part of town with 24-hour access and security cameras that probably hadn't worked since Obama's first term. I found the unit. Number 2 for 7. Inside. Mostly junk. Broken desk chair. A lamp with no bulb. 2 dusty boxes labeled college. But in the back was a folder. Printed emails. Like it was 2003. Printed. Between Marcus and someone signed MJ. The earliest email was dated 6 months ago. I can't stop thinking about you, counting down the days. It'll all be worth it soon. The last message from MJ was from 3 weeks ago. Apartment secured. Deposit paid. You're my forever. Marcus responded. Everything's handled on my end. Just a few more weeks. We'll be out of here by November. I reread that line 10 times. Out of here by November. I was here. I was the here. Then came the receipt. A jeweler's invoice for $3,200, dated September 15th. For a ring. I sat there on the concrete floor, surrounded by his old junk, and realized he'd bought her a ring using the money I'd been stashing away since before we were even married. Marcus had been building a life with someone else, while I was over here planning date nights and researching countertop finishes for a house he never intended to buy with me. I called Kimberly, again, told her everything, asked, begged for honesty. After a long silence, she admitted people had noticed him texting a lot at work before the layoff, always smiling at his phone. Rendon, one of the account managers, even saw him having lunch with a woman back in June, but no one said anything. Because they thought I knew. Everyone assumed we were handling it privately. Well, now we were. Very, very privately. Across international lines. The next day, my sister Maria showed up from Portland, 8 months pregnant and radiating murder. She barely made it through the front door before saying, I swear to God, if I wasn't this pregnant, I'd fly to Costa Rica and rip his balls off with salad tongs. We spent 4 hours going through everything I'd found. Maria had this look on her face like she was part grief counselor, part private investigator, and part avenging angel. She asked the same question that had been living rent-free in my brain for days. If he wanted out, why didn't he just divorce you? Why fake a job for 3 months? Why play house every night? Why tell me he loved me if he was literally planning an escape route? Maria's theory. He needed time. Time to build the fantasy with MJ. Time to move money without raising suspicion. Time to secure the apartment. The ring. The new life. He needed me to keep believing. Because the second I stopped believing, this whole thing would have collapsed. I didn't sleep that night. I just kept staring at the prepaid phone, at the text, flight confirmed. Meet you there tomorrow. And for the first time, I realized that I had never really known Marcus at all. It's been 3 months now. 3 months since the knock at the door, since my world twisted sideways. Since I realized the man I married was really just a polished lie wearing cologne and a wedding ring he didn't mean. I've stopped counting the days. I don't check Madison's social media anymore. I don't replay that phone call. I don't stare at the empty drawer where Marcus used to keep his cufflinks. Instead, I run. Every morning, before the city wakes up, I lace up my shoes and run 3 miles along the waterfront. Not to forget, but to move forward. Because there's a version of me that doesn't live in the ruins of someone else's betrayal. She's ahead of me. I chase her. She's not crying anymore. She's not waiting for apologies. She's not checking voicemail for lies. She's breathing. And she's free. Last week, I got a job offer. A real one. Not just a promotion or a new title, a reset. A creative director role at a firm in Portland, closer to Maria, closer to baby Sophie, closer to family that chooses me. I accepted. I packed up my our apartment quietly. No dramatic final glances. No burned photos or smashed dishes. Just cardboard boxes filled with what's mine, and a sense of peace that used to feel impossible. On my last night in Seattle, I sat alone on my balcony with a glass of wine and wrote a letter to Marcus. Not to send. Just to say the things I'll never get to say face to face without wanting to set something on fire. I told him he didn't break me. That I don't forgive him, but I don't need to. That I hope he finds out who he really is, because for 6 years, he let me believe he was someone better. Then I folded the letter, lit it with a match, and watched the ashes float into the October wind. Some endings don't deserve closure. Some stories are better when you stop turning the pages. And some people, no matter how deeply you once loved them, don't get to follow you into the next chapter. So here's mine. It doesn't start with a man. It starts with me, alone, yes, but whole and free. 3 days after Maria's arrival and one very satisfying breakdown in the parking lot of a Target, I got the call that would shift everything. Lucy, my lawyer, sounded almost gleeful. which is not something you want from your divorce attorney unless they're about to hand you an emotional grenade to throw back at your ex. I've got good news and, let's say, very helpful news, she said. First, we filed for divorce. Papers are in motion. But here's the kicker. We tracked Madison Jimenez. I stood frozen in the kitchen, halfway through pouring cereal into a mug like a divorced gremlin. She's real. I asked. Like, fully human and not some weird fantasy Marcus cooked up while spiraling. Oh, she's very real, Lucy confirmed. She lives in Seattle. Or lived. Based on her Instagram, she's been posting from Costa Rica for 2 weeks now. And yes, she's with him. There's a picture of them drinking something neon on a beach, looking like a travel agency ad for moral bankruptcy. I sat down. On the floor. Right there, next to the dishwasher. Lucy continued, her Instagram shows a lot, including the ring. The ring. Left hand. Fourth finger. Your money, I said flatly. So I bought his side chick a ring. Neat. Soon-to-be ex-husband, Lucy corrected. And that's not even the worst part. I held my breath. She's got a record of high credit card debt. She filed for bankruptcy 5 years ago. Her ex-husband is a guy named Brendan. I've already reached out to see if he'll talk. Madison has a history of this, Anastasia. Financial dependency, emotional manipulation. She's not just some lost soul. She's a con artist in yoga pants. I actually laughed, which was a weird sound to hear come out of myself. Like an exorcism, but Lucy kept going. Marcus didn't just fall for her. He bankrolled her. Every penny he took from your joint account. Gone. Paid off her debts, funded their apartment, bought furniture. The whole Costa Rican reboot was your money. You're telling me I sponsored their tropical betrayal getaway? I asked. Essentially, Lucy said. Think of it as a very expensive cautionary tale. Later that day, after pacing my apartment for an hour like a ghost with a Fitbit, I did something I never thought I'd do. I messaged Madison's ex-husband. Brendan. To my surprise, he replied in under 20 minutes. And then he called me. Turns out, Brendan was thrilled to talk. Maybe it's a misery loves company thing, or maybe he just hated his ex, but he spilled everything. She does this, he told me. Madison always needs a new start. New guy, new story. She gets bored, finds someone else, reinvents herself. She tells whatever version of the truth makes her sound like the victim. She told me I was emotionally unavailable. Meanwhile, she was draining our accounts and planning her next move. I almost dropped the phone. So you're telling me she's basically the real-world version of a malware virus, just in leggings? Pretty much, Brendan said. Look, I don't know your ex, but if she latched onto him while she was still in debt from our marriage, you can bet this wasn't about love. It was about survival. She needed a fixer. Your guy probably thought he was rescuing her. Hero complex or whatever. I wanted to scream. Or throw something. Or find a hobby that didn't involve screaming and throwing things. That night, I sat on the couch scrolling through Madison's social media, watching her laugh, post inspirational quotes about new chapters and choosing joy. Joy she bought with my house down payment. Maria came out of the guest room. Baby bump first and caught me mid-scroll. Put the phone down, she said like a war nurse. You're going to give yourself rage hives. I'm researching, I muttered. For court. You're doom stalking your ex's new girlfriend on Instagram while wearing a murder. She wrote hoodie and eating cereal out of a coffee mug. She had a point. I sighed and turned the phone over. Do you think he's happy? I asked. She looked at me for a long time, then said, I think he's trying really hard to look like it. And then she added, but people who are happy don't disappear without a word. They don't lie for months and steal everything. That's not Joanna. That's guilt in a Hawaiian shirt. I didn't respond. I just laid my head on her shoulder and stared at the blank TV. I used to think Marcus was the kind of man who'd fight for me. Now I know. He's the kind of man who runs, and I'm not. Chasing. I don't know what I expected when Marcus finally called. But I know what I wanted for the earth to split open and swallow him mid-sentence. It was for days after my conversation with Brendan, the ex-husband oracle, when a call came in from a blocked number. I hesitated. For 2 rings, 3. Then picked up. His voice hit me like a smell I'd forgotten, a scent tied to memories that made your stomach twist. Anastasia, he said. Just my name. soft, like it still belonged to him. I didn't say anything. I know I'm the last person you want to hear from. Bingo, give the man a prize. He started the performance. Said he was sorry, said he never meant for any of this to happen. Claimed things got complicated, as if cheating on your wife, draining her savings, and fleeing the country with a woman named Madison could be neatly filed under oops. I let him talk for 45 seconds. I timed it. Then I cut in. Which part are you sorry for, Marcus? The affair? The theft? The pretending to love me while you practiced your disappearing act every morning in my kitchen, he sighed. That deep. I'm the real victim here. Sigh. Men like him perfect in therapy they probably weaponize. I didn't plan for it to go down like this, he said. Losing my job. It messed me up, Anna. I felt like a failure. I couldn't even tell you. Every day I walked out that door, I felt like I was dying a little more. Oh, I said flatly. And draining our bank account helped with that. Or was that just your coping mechanism? Retail therapy by betrayal. She understood me, he snapped. Madison. She'd been through the same thing. She knew what it felt like to be broken. Broken? I laughed. You weren't broken, Marcus. You were just bored. Bored and entitled, and too much of a coward to have a single honest conversation with me. He didn't deny it. Instead, he said, it wasn't about you. It was about me needing to breathe. You wanted to breathe. I nearly shouted. Try drowning in debt while the person you love spends your savings on their side chick's credit card bill. Silence. Then the most galling part of the whole call. I was going to pay you back, he said. Like he was offering to Venmo me for lunch. Once I got work here. We're looking at starting something. A business. I could send something monthly, maybe a few hundred to start. I hung up. Mid-sentence. No warning. I stared at the phone like it had insulted my lineage. An hour later. Cecilia called. Of course he did. Anna, he told me he talked to you. He said you hung up. I did, I said. He started talking about installments. Like I'm his freaking landlord, she sniffled. He's trying, sweetheart. He didn't know how to face you. Well, he knew how to face the jeweler, didn't he? When he bought a ring for another woman with my money. She went silent. You still think he's a good boy, Cecilia? I asked. Because the boy you raised built an escape plan behind my back for 6 months and then vanished like a magician with a side gig in fraud. To her credit, she didn't try to defend him after that. Instead, she said, he's not who I thought he was either. Join the club, I muttered. Later that night, I sent Lucy a full write-up of the call. She called it a goldmine. Apparently, Marcus admitting he took the money intentionally and still had some left was all the leverage we needed for financial restitution. I asked her if financial restitution was lawyer speak for kicking his ass in court. She said yes. Basically, I couldn't sleep again. So I went back to Madison's Instagram like a masochist. She'd posted a photo of a sunset over the water. Caption: some chapters are meant to close. Others become the story. Oh, sweetie, you're not a new chapter. You're the bad sequel nobody asked for. That night, Maria and I got wine drunk and made a PowerPoint presentation titled, All the Ways Marcus Can Choke. Slide 1. A photo of his face with the word WHY in 72-point font. Slide 2. A list of foods he choked on during our marriage: popcorn, wasabi peas, his own pride. Slide 3. A pie chart titled Percentage of my money used for *T. It was cathartic. But the next morning, the grief came back. Not for him. For the version of me who didn't see this coming. The girl who packed his lunch, kissed him goodbye, and thought she had a future. That girl deserved better. So I made a new plan. One that didn't involve Marcus. Didn't involve Madison. Just me. I was going to win this divorce, and then I was going to rebuild, on my own terms. The divorce settlement came through 2 weeks ago. And yes, before you ask, it was messy, infuriating, and emotionally exhausting in the way only legally mandated contact with your lying ex-husband can be. But I won. Not everything, not the full $31,500, and not the justice I'd scribbled down in my darkest journal entries, but enough. Enough to say, he didn't get away clean. Lucy was incredible. Thanks to Marcus' own words on that phone call where he admitted he took the money, hid it, spent it, and lied about it, we were able to prove asset concealment and marital fraud. The judge ordered him to pay back a chunk of it, not all. He claimed financial hardship in Costa Rica, Crimea coconut-scented river. He wired me $5,000 2 days before the court deadline. A pathetic consolation prize for everything he stole, but somehow, it still felt like a tiny victory. Like I'd ripped one gold brick out of the house he built on my bones. But the real closure came last week. Brendan, the ex-husband of my ex-husband's new fiancée, that's a tongue twister and a therapy bill, called me. Again. Thought you might want to know, he said. Madison's back in the US. Wait, what? Apparently, paradise wasn't so perfect. Madison had flown back to Seattle solo and was staying with a friend in Capitol Hill. Brendan didn't know the details, but she'd been posting sad lady memes and quotes about rediscovering her power, you know. The usual breakup playlist for narcissists. I couldn't help myself. I looked. Her latest post, sometimes you have to lose everything to find your true self, which, to be fair, is a bold statement from a woman who lost nothing but my money and her vacation fling. I didn't message her, didn't confront her, didn't even accidentally like one of her filtered selfies. I closed the app and deleted her name from my search history. Because the truth is, she's not the villain in my story. Marcus is. He chose her. He chose this. And now he gets to live with it alone. Because as far as I know, he's still in Costa Rica. No more photos. No more updates. Just radio silence. Lucy says he's probably laying low to avoid further legal complications. I say he's probably choking on plantains and regret. Either way, not my business anymore. Here's what is. I signed the lease on a new apartment last Friday. Tiny, sunny, full of possibility. I bought myself a new rug because that's what people do when they reclaim their space. And I ordered a bookshelf that I plan to fill with every story that doesn't end with a man flying to another country behind your back. Maria and baby Sophie visit once a week. Maria says I'm glowing. I tell her it's just the cheap LED lights I installed, but the truth is, maybe I am glowing. Maybe surviving betrayal is its own kind of light. I've started dating again, nothing serious. Just real conversations with real people who know my actual name and haven't secretly emptied my bank account. I'm learning to trust slowly. To laugh without feeling guilty, to cry without feeling weak, to be alone without feeling lost. People keep asking if I'd ever want closure, like a neat little bow to wrap around all of this pain. But here's what I've learned. Closure is a myth. You don't get it from the person who broke you. You make it, piece by piece, from everything you build after them. And me? I'm building something better.